No, they're not too young. I'm sure they've already seen the Paw Patrol episode where they drop a ballistic missile on Humdinger. How are you talking about nuclear war in front of children? You kids have seen Oppenheimer, right? Florence Pugh. Her titties were out for 10 minutes and he became death, destroyer of all worlds. So true, so true. Honestly, if there was ever an event where it was important to stick to the topic at hand, it's the one where you're surrounded by small children. You understand that, right?
It was a rigged election. Barack Hussein Obama, have you heard of him? Open borders, letting anybody come in from the Congo, from countries all over the world. They came in from prisons and mental institutions. He can put on weight, like up and down like a yo-yo.
Did Trump just talk himself into getting hungry? She never worked over the piping hot fries. So crispy and salty, each bite a perfect... We should go to McDonald's. Let's go to McDonald's. Let's go.
Donald Trump's name appeared on the screen, and the atmosphere inside the studio immediately changed. The audience knew what they were about to watch, but no one knew how it would end, because this was no longer just another political disagreement. This was about how an insult could be turned completely upside down on live television. It had started a few days earlier. During a crowded rally, Trump suddenly shifted his attention toward television hosts who had criticized him in recent weeks. As he moved through a list of names, he eventually landed on Desi Lydic. Turning toward the crowd with a smile, Trump said, "Just another failed television host. She's constantly using my name to get ratings." The crowd erupted into applause. Trump paused for a few seconds and watched the reaction. Then, as if he had proven an important point, he continued his speech. But something interesting was happening online. People weren't talking about the insult itself. They were focused on a different question. If Desi was truly insignificant, why was Trump mentioning her name in front of thousands of people? The question started spreading. And a few days later, it found its way onto The Daily Show. When the program began, Desi seemed different than usual. She was smiling, but she wasn't rushing. From the opening moments, the audience could tell that something was different. Trump's clip appeared on the screen. The insult played exactly as it happened. The video ended. Normally, this would have been the moment for a punchline. Instead, nothing came. Desi remained silent for several seconds. Then she asked a single question. "If my name matters so little to him, why do we keep hearing it from him?" The audience laughed. But this time, Desi didn't chase the joke. Instead, she moved toward a more serious point. She replayed Trump's words. The video froze. Desi pointed at the screen. "Pay attention." "And which part of this actually responds to something I said?" The room grew quiet. The clip resumed. "Failed host." Pause. Desi shook her head. "That's not an answer." The video continued. "Nobody watches." Pause. "Also not an answer." The video continued. "She's chasing ratings." Pause. Still not an answer. A murmur moved through the audience. People were beginning to notice something. Trump had spent the entire segment talking about Desi, but almost none of it addressed anything she had actually said. That was the moment the tone of the show shifted. It was no longer just a comedy segment. Desi turned toward the camera. Sometimes people attack the person because it's easier than addressing the argument. The room fell silent. Then applause began to rise. She continued, "If you want to disprove criticism, you examine the criticism. You don't try to shrink the person delivering it." The screen changed. A montage of Trump's reactions to various critics over the past months appeared. Different people, different stories, different controversies, but the same pattern. Again and again, the focus shifted from the issue to the individual. Desi waited until the montage ended. Then she spoke calmly. Eventually, you start asking yourself a question. Is every critic really the problem? Or does the fact that every critic gets the same response tell us something else? The audience applauded. But the most memorable moment of the night had not happened yet. Desi reached beneath the desk and pulled out a small red button. A label sat above it. Version without applause. The audience laughed. Desi pressed the button. Trump's insult played once again, but this time it sounded different. No crowd, no cheering, no applause. Just the sentence itself. For the first time, everyone was hearing only the words. A few seconds later, Desi looked directly into the camera. Interesting, isn't it? Same sentence. What? But without the supporting noise, it sounds completely different. As the first half came to an end, the atmosphere in the studio had changed entirely, because this was no longer about an insult. It was about how strong a sentence really is when it has to stand on its own. And in the second half, Desi was about to push that idea even further. Part 2. When the second half began, the audience understood what this was really about. It wasn't just about Trump's words. It was about why those words were spoken in the first place. Desi stood beside the red button. Trump's insult played for a third time. Again, without applause. Again, without cheering. This time, the studio remained completely silent. When the clip ended, Desi spoke. Think about it. Are these words actually powerful, or does the crowd make them seem powerful? The audience looked around, because the question wasn't just about Trump. It could apply to politicians, television personalities, even ordinary people. Desi then displayed a series of social media posts, Trump's reactions to criticism, angry statements, lengthy defenses, online battles that stretched for hours. Then a question appeared across the screen in large letters. If it doesn't matter, why are you responding? The room burst into laughter, but underneath the laughter was recognition. The question was almost painfully simple. People don't usually spend that much energy on things they genuinely don't care about. Desi continued, it's possible for someone to say they don't care, but if they keep proving it every day, things get a little confusing. The laughter returned. Then the segment took an unexpected turn. Desi stopped talking about Trump specifically. She began talking about human behavior. Most people don't enjoy being criticized. That's normal. But some people don't answer criticism. They try to erase the critic. That changes the subject. And suddenly the discussion is no longer about facts. The audience listened carefully. Because the topic had grown larger than a television feud, Desi paused. Then she said, if a claim is false, you can prove it's false. If data is wrong, you can provide better data. If a story is incomplete, you can fill in the missing pieces. But if none of those things happen, what's left? The room fell silent. No one answered, because the answer was already inside the question. For the final time, Trump's rally footage appeared on the screen. The cheers returned. The applause returned. The excitement returned. Then suddenly everything froze. The sound disappeared. Only Trump's image remained. Desi turned toward the camera and delivered the final line of the night. Crowds can amplify power. Cameras can amplify volume. Social media can amplify a message. But eventually every statement ends up alone. And when it stands alone, all that's left is its meaning. A moment of silence followed. Then the audience rose to its feet. The applause lasted for minutes. As the show came to a close, something remarkable had happened. People no longer remembered the insult itself. What they remembered was what happened to it. How it was examined, how it was pulled apart, how it collapsed under its own weight. Trump had tried to put the spotlight on Desi. Instead, the spotlight ended up on the words themselves. And sometimes the biggest defeat in an argument is not when the other side shouts louder. The biggest defeat is when people stop, listen carefully, and hear your words in complete silence. Because at that point, applause cannot help. The crowd cannot help. The slogans cannot help. The sentence is standing on its own.